Good evening, folks. Tonight, we're going to talk about technically two presidents. We're going to kind of talk about John Tyler, sort of, and Zachary Taylor about when he was general. But we're not really going to talk significantly about him. But what has this got to do, and technically what does the Mexican-American War got to do with Canada? Well, I'll explain that as we go along. But we're going to read this from a book. Well, during this time frame, this is when William Henry Harrison was in office. You obviously all know when William Henry Harrison, who was a Whig, died hard about making states, as admitting states into the Union. He wanted to, obviously back in the day, states they're all about expanding territory. Well, President Harrison, William Henry Harrison, died in office. First president to ever die in office. He ended up dying of pneumonia. Only 1 whole month in office. He died of pneumonia. Then John Tyler is sworn in office as his vice president. So what does he do? This is what goes on. After 1836, obviously we all know about Carlos Santa Anna, about his hunt with Texas. The war went on between Texas and the Republic of Texas and Texans themselves. They fought between each other and wanted the whole entire slate done there. But you ask, what does Canada got to do with this? Really, nothing really. Canada really never fought in any part of this war at all, really. There were no battles fought between the United States or Canada, because Canada wasn't even a country then. But as I get back to my story here, he really didn't have much to do. But then because Santa Anna technically lost Texas, and then in 1836, Texas seceded from the Union. And Texas was officially its own entity. It could be anything then. Texas could become a state, could become a part of the United States, in which eventually it did. And let's see here. Once Harrison died, obviously a lot of things happened there. Let's see here. Let's go down the list here. What was some famous things that he did? Well, obviously, they marched over to, in March of 1843, they found the Oregon Territory and resolved rumors that the United States was prepared to abandon the territory, which the United States and Great Britain kind of fought over, but didn't really. They kind of shared it back and forth because really nobody really lived there much. They actually shared it. Russia and Spain kind of fought over for many years, but really nobody really had fought over it. So the United States and Great Britain kind of shared it themselves. So they shared it for so long. And then August 23rd, 1843, Mexican President Carlos Santa Anna warns the United States, and I'm going to say this in bold words, that his government would consider any American attempt to annex Texas a declaration of war against Mexico. Popular pressure to annex the Republic of Texas had increased in the United States after Mexico invaded Texas. So think about this. Texas was just a republic. Almost like how Canada was. It could have been like Canada. Texas could have been its own country. Just like Canada is its own country. It could have said, hey, we don't want anything to do with the United States. We don't want anything to do with Texas. I mean, not Texas, but Mexico. We don't want anything to do with either country. We want it to be our own country. Think about that for a minute. Now back on to where we were. So, then As that went on, President Tyler just didn't really care what he thought of. President Tyler supports the annexation. So, Texas obviously already seceded from Mexico after the little brief war with Mexico, their own personal war. It already happened. Remember the old phrase, remember the Alamo? That was Texas. So they do that in 1844. But then, let's jump. James Polk. Then James Polk runs. Then we jump in the James Polk era. James Polk, pretty much well, this is where the war breaks out at. Pretty much will, he's a Democrat. So pretty much will things don't settle well. Obviously we've seen how things settle with Democrats. Pretty much will all war. So, March 4th, 1845, with Polk. Well, to make things quickly here in 1845, well, we'll do certain things. On June 15th, well, actually March 28th, 1845, Mexico breaks off diplomatic relations with the United States in the coming months and insists that the southern boundary of Texas is at the Nueces River rather than the Rio Grande as claimed by the United States. Which is technically why the Mexican-American War started. They wanted and to this day, that's why Mexico claimed the war started. They thought the Nueces River was where Texas was started compared to where it is today. The Rio Grande River, aka the Rio Grande, how we pronounce it up here, the Rio Grande River, is technically where the United States-Mexico border is. But they went further north. And that's where the Thornton affair went. So, later on, as we jump further along here, December 5th, 1845, kind of like the Oregon Territory dispute was placed by border at the 49th parallel. As early as 1818, Great Britain and the United States fixed the border parallel between states and Canada at the 49th parallel, Lake of the Woods, Minnesota Territory. Similar situation. Very similar here. I'll get to that momentarily. They remain unsettled for a very long time. Then we get to something else going on. Texas is admitted into the Union on December 28th, 1845. So what happens? April 24th, 1,600 Mexican troops cross the Rio Grande River and attack a reconnaissance party of 63 American dragoons, killing 11, wounding 5, and capturing the rest. That there set off James Polk in a heartbeat. Zachary Taylor, pretty much all doing the same thing. The Mexican-American War has begun. May 1st through 3rd, the siege of Fort Texas begins. U.S. encampment in the north bank of the Rio Grande. Pretty much the United States wins that one. May 8th, 2,300 Americans en route to Fort Texas to supply meet with 6,000 Mexican troops in Battle of Palo Alto. Americans' very reply artillery helps turn back the attack. Decent victory there for the Americans. The Mexican army retreats to a defensive position north of Matamoros. Tyler pursues the force, and his army of 1,700 men defeats the outmarched army of 5,700 Mexicans at Battle of Rio de la Palma. Tyler's victory earns him the nickname Old Rough and Ready, and he sure earned that nickname very well. Zachary Taylor was a monster general. 2 days after Polk declares Mexico has shed blood on American soil, Congress declares war on Mexico. That was on May 13th, 1846. The Congress declares war on Mexico. The U.S.-Mexico War begins. So technically they didn't really declare war fully yet, but it already had begun. Then, May 15th, 1846, Colonel Stephen Canary is ordered to take possession of New Mexico. 2 weeks later, his orders are revised to include an invasion of California. So that's where the other two things begin at. Then, this is where the interesting part comes in. The Senate votes to ratify the Oregon Treaty. So this is where the Canada-Oregon thing come into play. Okay. The Oregon Territory versus Canada. Oregon Territory could have been decided, but it didn't. Canada could have had Oregon Territory. Britain and the United States were fighting over that, but no bodies were lost. Part of the United States, people in the West technically wanted to fight. People in the East didn't. But we were already at war with Mexico. So why fight? States that were already in the Oregon Territory were Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Northwest Central Wyoming, Northwestern Montana, and southern parts of British Columbia, Canada. So, if you want to go that part, let's look you here. They made a deal to ratify it. They lined the line up and draw the line. Say, instead of shedding blood, they made a treaty. Say, you may have the northern part. Canada can have it. Canada. Because if we would have declared war on Britain, we would have had, it would have been a war, just like, it would have been war on two fronts. Kind of like how it was during the War of 1812. It'd been like Great Britain fighting the United States for one different cause, while Great Britain's fighting France in a different cause. Two different causes there. Well, on the other hand, you have the United States fighting Great Britain for a different cause and fighting Mexico for a completely different cause. But other people say James Polk's reason to fight Mexico is a ridiculous reason, while others say, no, you killed them for a dumb reason. But to make things better, nobody was killed. Everybody in the East, hardly anybody liked Polk, but heck, it was the best peace treaty they ever made. Then we jump over here. California is annexed to the United States on August 13th, 1846. California is annexed. Complete annexing. A lot of things happened. December 26, 1846, Iowa was admitted into the Union. A lot of things occur. Then we jump here. A lot of good battles. Zachary Taylor. He criticizes, let's just say, he was critical of, Zachary Taylor was critical of Polk. Let's see, Monterey, he fought at Battle of Monterey. And pretty much, was victorious at Monterey. Caught General Santa Anna by surprise. And then he went on and won at Battle of Buena Vista, and pretty much, well, left there. And that's pretty much how it all ended for him. Battle of Buena Vista, pretty much, well, Battle of Buena Vista, pretty much what was the tipping point of his whole war career. At Buena Vista was his last straw. He requested that he be relieved of his command because he was not happy with the way his troops were handed to him. He wanted more troops. He didn't get any more than what he had. He just wanted more. But he got what he wanted. But Zachary Taylor ran for president. And sure enough, he won. He won presidency. Zachary Taylor won. But what's the difference? But why did Canada have to do with this? Because the Oregon Territory was part of it. Oregon didn't annex into the United States, but a lot of states seceded from the Mexico Union after Mexico surrendered in 1848 to the United States. Mexico lost Texas, Arizona. Well, they already lost Texas, but they lost Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, southern Wyoming, central southern Colorado. Pretty much they lost all these states. They lost Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma. They pretty much lost all those states. And Veracruz, just like Veracruz. They lost Veracruz to the French, like they did with the French in 1838 to 1839. Late 1838 to 1839, when Veracruz, only one battle, only was one battle, the whole entire war. That was the only battle, that whole war. But Veracruz was a costly battle. And with that being said, I gotta go. Peace.